Mishnah 18, second parak. Rebbe Shimon says, Chave Zachir b'Kriyas Shema u'b'Tefillah. Be careful. Chave Zachir, be watchful, be cautious. Pay attention. Do it with thought. It's not a throwaway. All right? With Kriyas Shema u'Tefillah. Shmon Esrei, Tefillah, davening. Kesha'ata mitpalel. And when it is that you are davening, al tas tefiloscha keva. Don't make your tefillah fixed. And we saw a preceding mission that says ose sorsecha keva. Your Torah, Shammai says your Torah should be fixed. But Shimon says don't allow your tefillah to be fixed. We'll try to figure out why those two differ. Ela rachamim b'tachanunim lifnei hamakom. But rather they are an appeal for compassion and supplication. You're asking for mercy, and it's a supplication. It's an appeal. It's a right? Before hamakom. Lots of different names for Hashem. This is the name of Hashem, which is hamakom, the place. God who's everywhere. God's involved in everything. Right? People like to ask the question, where in the world is God? Right? This is happening to me. Where in the world is God? The answer is, where in God are you? Right? It's not, God is not here. We're there. He's the makom. He's the place. He's the playing ground in which all of this takes place. Right? He's the ultimate reality. It's not where in this world that we have, that we run, do you squeeze in God. And so Hashem is omnipresent. He is in every place. He is hamakom. Right? Shenamar, as it says, Ki Chanun v'rachum hu erech apayim rel chesed, right? V'nichem al hara. That he is, and it sounds like the 13 attributes, right? He's gracious, he's compassionate, he's slow to anger, he's abundant in kindness, right? He desists from punishing, right? That's Hashem. Ve'al tehi rasha bifnei atzmecha. And don't be a rasha. Right? Don't be a rasha in your own eyes. So let's just go back together. So first you have to understand what is Shema and what is Tefillah. So these are your two tools for relating to Hashem. Right? These are your two tools for relating to Hashem. Shema and Tefillah. So when I was a kid, I was afraid of the dark. Right? Afraid, my parents, where they lived, the house, and then back behind the house was the trash yard, the garage, and then a trash yard, and then a backyard, and then a fence, and then the railroad tracks, and then more open space, and then that's where Bigfoot lived. Right? And that's where the monster, and because if the monsters came down out of the Santa Monica Mountains, there was basically nothing, a few blocks of houses or whatever, but basically it was a straight line to that backyard and that trash yard. So the little kid, I had no interest in going out there, because I knew that whatever monster lurked was going to it was there. And I remember telling my grandfather, whatever, it's like, you're afraid of the dark. And he said, don't be afraid of monsters. He said, if you're ever afraid of monsters, say the Shema. He didn't say tefillah, he didn't say daven, he said say the Shema. Shema is an intellectual piece. Shema is the mission statement of the Jewish people. What is Shema? Shema says, Shema Yisrael, listen Jewish people. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem is the creator of the universe. Hashem Echad. God's the only thing. There are no monsters. So you're afraid that monsters have power over you. That's why you're afraid of monsters. You're afraid the monster can grab you and suck out your retinas. Right? They can suck your brain right out through your ears. The monster can't hurt you. There is no such thing as monsters. There's just God. Right? Hashem Echad. It's a hard thing to get a handle on. There is no such thing as an economy. There's no such thing as a job. There's no such thing as a boss. There's no such thing as wealth or poverty or global warming or cancer. Cancer doesn't exist. Now tell that to the tumor that I'm dealing with, but it doesn't exist. It's nothing. Right? There was a movie, The Matrix, that was out a few years ago, where it came down that everything people thought was really just, daydreams placed in their minds through a connection by robots. So the mechanism they have wrong. But to a certain extent, the underlying concept that there is nothing. Right? You are a creature of pure spirit. of pure will, living in Hamakom, living in Hashem. And the rest of this physical manifestation isn't really reality. I mean, it's here and it's real and we're bodies and we're souls in bodies, but it's really a reflection of the will of God. Right? That God shapes and controls. Right? The idea of creator, sustainer, supervisor means God created the universe by planning it. Right? Creator is he designs, an original creation ex nihilo. Sustainer means every instant he recreates. If you ever watched a movie, played a video game, if you look on the screen and a guy moves his hand across the screen, he doesn't move his hand. That the projector projects his hand here, and an instant later here, and then 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 here, and here, and here. And as long as you then run that at 35 frames a second or faster, it looks like smooth movement. Right? If you took this video that we're doing apart and you look at it, all it is multiple sequential frames played one after the other. There is no movement. Nothing moves. It's just a recreation of the image in the new position, instant by instant. There is no such thing as movement. Nothing moves. Time doesn't exist. What you have is multiple independent slices of time, stacked one on the other. If you want to see it in math, go look for the Wheeler-DeWitt equations. Right? Wheeler, after whom the science school at Berkeley is named. Go read Wheeler-DeWitt, and they'll show a reconciliation of quantum mechanics and Newtonian physics, right, by showing that time doesn't exist. What you really have is multiple time slices with consciousness that somehow flows, from layer to layer. But sustainer means in every instant, God recreates the world. He takes in the new information, he looks at your will, he understands what you are, and he recreates the world. Right? People who say God doesn't have time to pay attention to you, it's because they don't realize that every single leaf that's being reanimated is being recreated by God. Every instant it's a complete new recreation. If God hiccuped or burped or fell asleep or ignored it, the universe would cease to exist. There is no continuity from instant to instant. Creation ex nihilo, we think of creation ex nihilo as God, the celestial watchmaker approach, is God created a universe, kicked it off, and it rolls. That's not the Torah approach. Right? We believe the method of the approach is God created the universe, and he recreates, and he recreates, and he recreates, and he recreates. Now, as long as he has to recreate, he might as well take your will into account. If you choose to lift your hand, you will it. Man proposes, God disposes. You choose for your hand to lift, and God will recreate your hand through that series of motions. Everything you do, God is recreating you instant by instant. Right? That's Keo Melech Neman. When you say Amen, before you say Shema, you say Eo Melech Neman. Right? It's a mnemonic. Amen is a mnemonic for that. It's God the designer, God the king, God who you can trust. Keo Melech Neman. God designed the universe. God is the king of it. He recreates it. And God is Neman. He's trustworthy. You can count on him to recreate in a way that's appropriate for you. If he feels that it's necessary to create an economy, it's because you need whatever that economy is doing to you, you need. If he chooses to stick a tumor in my bowels, then I need a tumor in my guts. My job is, how do I get through it as a Kiddush Hashem? Right? That's the only question. How do God proposes? When man proposes, God disposes. God gives us what to live by. So we say Shema. Shema is a recognition that we're not Manichaean dualists. Right? Other people believe that there's two forces of evil. There's a force of evil and a force of good. Right? God's the force of good, and he's got a competitor who happens to be a little bit weaker, not having such a good season, right? Then that's the force of evil. Although some people would argue that for the last couple thousand years, the force of evil has been having a little bit better season than the force of good, and that's why the world looks to it. We don't believe in that. We're not Manichaeans. We're not dualists. We don't believe that there's a separate, independent power. The idea of Satan is not the same thing as Hasatan. Right? Hasatan is an agent of God. Right? It's your Yetzer Hara made manifest in a separate fashion. It's the mistakes that you've made coming back to accuse you, to show you. But it's not an independent power separate from God. We do not believe there's any other power. And it's hard to hear, because you have to recognize that when things blow up on you, it doesn't always go the way you want. Economically, you don't get the job you want. Money's not as easy as you want it to be. Health isn't as easy as you want it to be. Relationships aren't. Like, so many things in life don't run the way you want. It's not outside forces. Right? Your challenge is not my challenge. I wouldn't trade. Your challenge is a hard one. Mine's different. Shema is the first step. You have to, if you want to connect to God, the first step is you have to recognize Shema. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Go through the paragraphs, how you connect to Him, how do you take that reality of God being one, how do you love Him, how do you see good, but the ultimate issue of Shema is God is the only force in the world. There's nothing else. The corollaries of that is it's all good. It's all a gift. Right? There's God who focuses on mercy and God who focuses on justice. Sometimes we can't see why what's happening to us is just or merciful. But it doesn't say anything about God of capriciousness. The angry God of the Old Testament is not a Jewish concept. God deals with us justly, or He deals with us mercifully. So He says the first step connecting to God is you have to say the Shema. You can't get anywhere else. If you think that there's two gods, if you think if you think your boss has power over you, if you think that if you think other things can control your life, you can't get any farther in your connection with God. You have to start with this. Shema, Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. There's only one thing in the world that exists.